What's going on, everybody? We're going to be talking about this phenomenal book, A Mind at Home with Itself. And this book goes beyond, there's a lot of books out there that, talk about like transcending. And, there's a lot of people who have maybe gone to, I think it's a Burning Man, that have maybe gone to Burning Man and, suddenly feel like, they've transcended beyond reality, and they talk a lot about it. But so there's this great book, and the only reason why I even jumped into a book like this is because it was recommended by someone very reputable, Tony Robbins. I don't think he would recommend many people who are not a recommended book that would not be helpful to someone or is like maybe not sincere on the subject. And it's one thing to hear of, like, watch a video with a guru talking on stage with their leg crossed and in like underwear, and like and I'm not saying that that is not a good thing. I'm not saying criticizing the actual philosophy itself, or if they're a religious figure. I'm not criticizing that. I'm saying that there's a lot of people who are not actually experts, who are probably just faking it. And this, I think Byron Katie is one of those authors who is not. So back to that whole point, right? Of reading a book like this, hearing the suggestion from Tony Robbins, adds that extra level of credibility. That idea that this is a person who is truly sincere about her beliefs, which happen to stem from ancient Buddhist texts. So big difference. I think listening to this book and then watching a video on YouTube of a pseudo guru, right? So a pseudo, or even a pseudo expert who maybe is not doing it for the right reasons. But anyway, with that aside, you got Tony Robbins. You recommend this book, and I had to check it out. A Mind at Home with Itself. It's probably one of the very few books that I've ever read that are in this line. And when I hear stories of those people who have gone to like this experience, and or they've had some mind altering experience, or they went to like this festival and suddenly they've transcended it. I wonder, like, okay, but what else, what do you do, how do you help people? And A Mind at Home with Itself, I gotta say, I'm just gonna throw this out there, but she literally gave her house away. And it's one thing to hear it from me, but to hear her voice helping to narrate the story, and to hear her entire or powerful story about a woman who became successful in the was becoming very successful in the corporate world, and then something in her, something completely shifted her entire reality, and it wasn't some mind altering substance, right? It was this experience that she had that just completely changed her life, the life that she does with others. And it can be easy to go into a lot of books like these when you hear, like, these things that are going to help you, because ultimately, so how asking four questions can free your mind, open your heart, and turn your world around. That's what A Mind at Home with Itself is about. So basically, four questions. How can four questions really change your life? And this book goes back and forth between like her actually giving coaching scenarios, between Byron Katie actually giving real scenarios where she was applying those coaching questions, and the story of Byron Katie and how she came to be. And I gotta urge anybody who is in personal development and coaching, anybody who is overcoming some challenges that they're having in their life. And it doesn't have to be mental or anything. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be like super serious. But with the story of Byron Katie, to hear the level of sincerity of her, and her belief in this, and her here's the thing is like there's a lot of people. I think there's a lot of books out there that I've read, or YouTube videos and even podcasts where where there comes a point where it feels as if this person hasn't truly adopted what it is that they say that they've achieved, because there's really no hasn't been like a exact reason to, right? So just because somebody has gone to a music festival and like did did some sort of mind altering substance, and suddenly they were able to see lights or something, that is so far the opposite direction of what I think it would truly mean to have a truly life-changing experience that completely alters your reality. And this is one way. This is one woman who has such a extreme experience. Like, I think it's good to have books, or to listen to stories from people who have extreme personalities. And I don't mean extreme like extremist or extremist, but I mean like extreme like they are on the far end of the spectrum. If you were to just hear someone tell you about her story, they might be like like they're off to Pluto right now, right? Or they're off to another universe. Like, what universe is this person in? Or what is this person smoking? That's a common question that people ask. Or that's what people would ask, and it's interesting to hear this alternative personality. Not extreme in a bad way, but like just that opposite end of spectrum. You got like the middle, where there's the gurus who are like have had a mind altering experience, but they're not truly living it. But they like to talk about it. And then there's the real, like the real, and I'm not saying anything against them. They got to do what they got to do. But then you got like the real experts, right? You got the people who are like, Dalai Lama, and those religious figures, Dalai Lama, like monks that have dedicated their lives to their belief system, and their efforts to adopt the their beliefs, right? They dedicated lives to it. And then there's people like Byron Katie, who still live in the real world, or at least her world, but they have done just this phenomenal job of being able to apply it in the real world, into life, into helping people, into sharing her story. So I would say she's right up there with, like, you got the Buddhas and people that actually live in the temples and monasteries who live that life. And uh, what I'm trying to say is, like, it's so difficult to communicate this story without, like, making you dear viewer, like, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense, like, this woman's just crazy, right? But at the end of the day, her philosophy, her way of living, her, just there's something about the way that this story is told, where the sincerity of it just hits you, and it helps you, and you believe it, right? There's something about somebody who is sincere about what they do, that just takes the power of what they're looking to help people achieve to the next level. And I can't say enough about, like, who she is, what I was able to learn from this book, what I was able to help me consider because this book does an amazing job. Again, not just the story, but it also gives so many examples of her applying these questions to help coach people. And, if you're a coach, you're bound to get some ideas from this. And while I don't think most coaches should, try to reach this level of, I'm going to use the word, I don't want to, but I can't think of another better word, but of like transcendence, like, experiencing something beyond just a typical reality. And it's not, and to actually believe it, right? To actually believe that, everyone is, it's difficult to explain unless you have like studied those texts and listened to this book, but like basically the concepts that, we're all connected in some way, right? It's so simple right now as I'm saying it, and it sounds cheesy, and that's the one reason why I don't listen to the or read that type of stuff. But she does it in a very powerful way. And Byron Katie, again, this book was on a reading list that I saw. Supposedly Tony Robbins suggested it. I don't know if the reading list is accurate, but it got me to buy it, so it did its job. And A Mind at Home with Itself. Whew. I want to share a story, but I don't want to spoil it. Like, just think about if you were to literally, if you were one person one day, you are who you are today, and then suddenly combine literal, like your life just disappearing before your eyes, and then a new life just suddenly reappearing, but you still know that there was maybe some other life, but like this new reality is the reality, but it's still real. It's just too difficult to explain, but that is what she went through basically. There was something that completely shifted her world. There's an amazing story about it, that completely shifted her reality, and not in that like, going off into a forest because, your boss fired you and you're upset and you want to go meditate for, a couple months and, listen to the sound of drums beating, right? But someone who actually had some sort of wild experience that, took her away from reality and then like brought her back and with a completely different perspective. So with that, I would totally recommend checking this book for something a little different. If you've watched my other videos, they're more like, things the guys would read, right? The things that the guys in the corporate consulting might read, or like personal development. But A Mind at Home with Itself is incredibly powerful, and it's a great alternative to that concept of just doing, making it happen. And there's another book, I haven't read it. It's called like The Go Giver, and it's popular. It's got a lot of reviews, and the guy published like 5 or 6 more, Go Giver, for different ideas. But just imagine if that book was written by somebody who, just lives that life. You can imagine by the title. It's about going out and giving, and that's not what this book is all about. It's not just about like going to give things away, despite the fact that she gave her house away, but really deeply connecting with your world, with the people around you. Having that sincere appreciation and connection is some of the great takeaways from Byron Katie's A Mind at Home with Itself. So this book is by Stephen Mitchell and Byron Katie, narrated by Pete Simonelli, Madeline Mabey, Stephen Mitchell, and Byron Katie. There's a lot of great coaching lessons in it too, and even if you don't end up living your life like Byron Katie, at least hearing her perspective, I think, can almost at least give you a little different of a perspective that is an incredibly powerful one. So with that, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment. Love to hear any feedback, and check it out. There's a link in the description below to Byron Katie's book, A Home or mind at home with itself, incredibly powerful, and highly recommend reading it or listening to it. It's an amazing listen too because you get to hear the interactions between a coach and someone that they're coaching based on a real story. So thank you for watching and have a wonderful day and wish you the best.